Federal workers are suing Elon Musk and Doge over their work productivity email asking employees to report what they accomplished in the past week. But the Doge chief is hitting back, not backing down, saying Americans, including President Trump, support it. Former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky joins me now and asks for that doubling down. Elon Musk posting on X, quote, subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. This was posted yesterday. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. Katie, nobody loves the idea more than me of making these federal workers account for the money that we pay them as taxpayers. And I think their entitlement to say, why do I have to account to you? I don't need to tell you what I do is astounding. But that said, legally, can they be fired for not responding?
Well, I absolutely agree with you. I think that this is the most fundamental question. What exactly are you doing with all of this taxpayer money and these jobs that some people seem to think that they're entitled to without any sort of accountability? I've worked many years within the federal government, and I can tell you personally that this is something that I personally would also want to know as the head of the executive department. I think big picture that President Trump will prevail on much of these Doge lawsuits. There are some questions that may make their way up to the Supreme Court to kind of explain the outer perimeter of the executive power, but much of this falls well within the discretion of the executive branch, and President Trump promised that he would cut down on the extensive waste within the federal government, and these are the big picture questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I think the court's going to ultimately decide, or have to decide, look, what is the official request for this information? Is it the email from OPM? Or is it the tweet from Elon Musk? I don't think a tweet is legally binding, but, you know, let's see what the courts say. Here's more from Donald Trump defending Elon Musk.
There was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
Aside from all the noise that we just talked about in the first question, I think this is the brilliance of this move. Because a bot's not going to be able to necessarily respond in an email that, hey, I am a real job. So all these no-show jobs could be flagged and gotten rid of. Your thoughts?
Well, that's exactly the point here. I think it's very important at a basic level to ensure that people are doing their job and that they're being productive, because there's many examples that people could cite endlessly about how long it takes to get any answers from some of these federal employees. Now, that's not to say that there's not very great people that work for the federal government, and certainly they should be able to demonstrate that and should be able to show why they are vital to continue in those positions. But barring that, I think there's a big question about the necessity for some of these positions to continue if people are even doing them in the first place.
Well, the pushback continues in all aspects. A federal judge in Washington saying Doge may be unconstitutional, writing, based on the limited record I have before me, I have some concerns about the constitutionality of the structure and operation. I understand she has the caveat there about the limited record, but Katie, if the president hired a consulting firm to do literally the exact same thing that Doge is doing, wouldn't that be okay? Because that consulting firm, that outside group, would be under executive control.
Well, that's exactly right. And we can't overlook the hypocrisy here. These same critics who are claiming that they're trying to protect the Constitution were the same people who argued that Jack Smith's appointment was constitutional when he had absolutely complete autonomy without any oversight from the DOJ or from the president. And as we saw, at least in the Florida case, and Justice Thomas suggested that his appointment was in violation of the Appointments Clause, whereas Elon Musk clearly works at the pleasure of the president. The buck stops at the White House regarding all of this, and the executive does have the authority and I think the responsibility to make sure that these agencies are doing what we're paying them to do. And frankly, there's a lot of agencies and individuals out there that do not deserve this money, and it's taxpayer-funded money.
I really wonder if you'd see this same uproar, the same pushback if this were McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group or Parthenon, one of the big consulting companies doing this work, and not somebody who's gotten the ire of the libs, one Elon Musk. Have to leave it there. Katie Cherkasky, thanks for getting up with us.